Okay, so I'm gonna go ahead and start talking. Um, I don't know if anyone will show up or not, but um, maybe people can watch it later. I'm seriously considering not doing um, YouTube videos or TikTok videos anymore. There's just doesn't seem to be an audience for this type of video anymore. Um, YouTube's different, and I really don't see where I any other platforms that are geared this way. Um, there is a possibility that I'm just feeling a little upset because and it seems so foolish, but when you have so little in your life, little things are big. And so here's my what made me think this. um you know I made this TikTok that I thought was really clever and funny. Um and in a way of coping, using humor to cope with a disorder. It is also something other people could think was funny, but like it's not getting any um likes, and I'm like, I don't know, people are watching it, but they're not liking it, and I'm like, thought it was pretty funny. It's kind of hilarious, and um, so I don't know, maybe just, I mean, all my hashtags were like bipolar and stuff, so you'd think that the right people would see it and think it was funny, but I'll just tell you what it was. Of course, I in my TikToks, I put on a funky hat. I have a funky outfit on every time, just usually witch related or a winter hat with Hogwarts on it or something, just to make it light or funny or something, and just to grab attention. And then so this time I had this like witch's hat. It's purple and black, and this anyway, what I do is instead of talking, I write my message on pieces of paper, and I move the pieces of paper so you don't know what's going to come next. And I got that idea because my voice doesn't carry very well, and it seemed to me to have it make it really creative in a way of timing what words to put on the paper to build up anticipation or something. And sometimes they are funny, sometimes they're serious, and some of them were like um, um, motivating and stuff. And this one, it was really simple, and and I take a lot of time to pick out the right music that I think fits for the mood. And it said and like the big tag on the front says bipolar humor, so everybody knows that I'm being like lightening up us. And so um the first paper says psychosis, and then I moved that out of the way. And the second paper says, um, it's an interesting place to visit. And then the next one is but. And then the next one says, I wouldn't want to live there. And I smile. And the music was Nirvana's Teen Spirit. And I thought it was hilarious when nobody's liking it. Oh well. I look at the analytics and stuff of my YouTube videos, and they don't look good. That was really that was a bad idea. I never should. That took the fun out of everything. It took the fun out of YouTube analytics. I don't recommend, looking at analytics, because it shows that it'll say like 30 views, which, once upon a time, 12 years ago, when I would do this exact same format, I get like thousands of views and some posts. And I never looked at analytics though. And I did for this group that I just started now. And most people start watching my videos, or at least the ones I looked at, but then it just like their retention is. So I'm like estimating that I probably just have 4 that have commented people. So, but I mean, and then in my head is, well, that's 4 people. If you didn't do videos, then that would be no people that you're helping. So I don't know. I think I was just really bummed out that nobody thought my TikTok was funny. And I had just didn't I just talk about this? I just talked about this, and now I'm being a little bit of a hypocrite. I had just talked about don't live for the likes and views and stuff. If you're going to create something, just do it because you love it. So I guess I should listen to my own advice. But it is discouraging, and I'm going to stay away from analytics. And I was fine until that. So quit. I know I'm not the only one. I don't have a whole lot going on. And so these little things, they're not casual for us that have little going on. So validation from the bigger outside world. That's I should have known it doesn't work in person, so of course it's not going to work online. Anyway, I guess if you've never had psychosis, maybe you just couldn't get it, what I meant by that. So maybe it was just misunderstood. And for all I know, I'll wake up tomorrow and it'll look different. I need to get a life, basically. Good news. My service dog Finn was limping, and I was terrified because we had a dog that had cancer in her leg. And so I was terrified, and it turned out he just had like a bunch of burrs or seeds and stuff stuck in a paw pad. And the vet removed that, and he was fine. $46. Anyway, but I mean, he wasn't doing his, alerting thing. He wasn't working because it was hurting. Excuse me. I always do that when I start talking on here. The other thing I want to talk about, something, and I know I've talked about this, but it was a long time ago. But I'm going to tell you the little story that goes with it. My mom and I were at the store, not a very busy store. And we came out, and there was this man, this elderly man, and he had a little pickup, and his groceries, his stuff he bought were still in the grocery cart there, and he was standing there with his head down, like down. And it was coming up, and we're both like, we started walking towards our car. We both veered this way to kind of get a better look to see. And my mom's like, "Are you okay?" And he lifted his head up, and he was ashen. I mean, no color in his face but gray. It was scary. And having been a nurse, and I know that look. It's not a good look. And he's like, "Oh, I just gotta catch my breath." And so we start talking to him, like, not like a conversation, but do you need to go to the hospital and stuff? And he said, "Well, I had really bad chest pain, and the VA did surgery on me and I think he meant that they put, he had a bypass, and that he needs to go back because he's starting to have chest pain again." And my mom said he had a bunch of cigarette packs in his truck on the floor, she could see. So he probably has some really bad not congestive heart failure, COPD, chronic obstructive pulmonary disease, and probably heart or cardiovascular issues too. And my mom didn't have to say anything to me because we thought the same thing at the same time. We were weighing, should we call an ambulance anyway? Whether he wants it or not. But we understand that he'd probably be billed for something, and I don't think he has a lot of money. And he's just saying, "I just need to rest and catch my breath, and then I can drive." And he said, "If I have any trouble driving, I just pull over." And we were just, I told my mom we should follow him home. I was just terrified. And we got his name and phone number. He had a cell number, and we did call him to make sure he got home. And it was so sad because I asked to be sure. I was like, "Are you alone?" And he had dog food. So I'm just like, there's this old guy and he's gonna die real soon. And he has this little dog. And so um New Zealand. Oh my gosh, that's cool. I've always wanted to go there. Is that really New Zealand, or is the NZ something else? Um, um, so looking outside of ourselves, or maybe when maybe we weren't um, doing well. Oh, cool. Okay. I am in the middle of freaking nowhere, smack dab in the middle of the United States. I am in a state that is the middle of nowhere, and in the state, I am in the middle of nowhere. I am in a town that is in the middle of nowhere. um, anyway, how much do we, how much do we intervene, like with somebody else? But I'm going to apply it to mental health. Or even with yourself. So I'll start with probably start within yourself. Are there people, now of course I did it again. Oh no, it's right there. Be right back. I'm sorry, I do that like every time. And my hair is just weird today. So if you're having a bit of a crisis, let's say not a crisis enough that somebody is obviously going to call 911 or the police or something. But let's say things you say if you're really depressed and you're saying things, nothing blatant, like I'm going to end it, I'm going to kill myself. Just being really depressed, like nothing ever goes well. I'm tired of dealing with this. It's not fair. And say you're crying and there's like this gray area. And I wonder, is there ever a point where you would be okay with someone intervening and making a decision for you to maybe call the police, or if they know your family or something? I mean, like if a stranger walked on you and you were depressed and you're crying and you're saying things that might alarm someone, but it's not like, it's like the guy with the heart thing. Obviously, if he fell on the ground and we were doing CPR, we would call 911. But there's a gray area. Would you welcome a stranger Are you okay? Is there somebody I can call for you? Would you prefer them mind their own business and let you be alone in your state? Would it matter if it's a stranger? Are there people in your life that you're okay with that might be like, okay, well, I'm really concerned, so I'm going to call your husband, boyfriend, son, in my case, mother, therapist. I don't know. That I think might be overreaching. So, I mean, if a stranger was, if I was saying blatantly, oh, I'm going to kill myself, well, yeah, anybody should call 911. But in that gray area, how would you feel? And and then, well, let's see. I know that in my life, the person closest to knowing what's going on with me and what I can deal with and knows how to check in and check out, my mom. So when I went through the harassment that I went through at where I used to work, and then when I resigned afterwards, I was, pretty sad and depressed. That was normal, but my moods were also being affected. Mood enhancing event. So she just, for part of it, she just watched me carefully. But I mean, there have been times where all she would say is, are you okay? Are you going to be okay? And I can say, yes, I'm just very upset and I just want to be alone for a little bit. She wouldn't call 911 or rush me to the hospital. When she first found out my diagnosis and didn't know much about it and stuff, she tried to control my moods and what was going on and stuff. But now she understands that I know my moods. And only in the event that I start talking really crazy, or really isolate a lot. I mean, for not come downstairs for that day at all. I don't think I haven't had behaviors that warranted intervention like that in a long time. I did at one time. I was psychotic and I didn't know it. And this was the false memory time. And I went to, this is weird. My psychosis was telling me that I needed to do some things that were not good. Yes, that would have ended in my demise, let's just put it that way. But it was part of the delusion, and I was actually high. So go figure. And so I had an appointment with my therapist, and I went and I start talking crazy. And she just casually was like, I think we need to call your mom. And then I was in the hospital. So I think that that was appropriate in intervention, psychosis. Um, and do you have a plan? Those questions. I mean, because you have to be really specific with people. I know that we say things and they can be taken the wrong way entirely. I mean, if you've been really upset about something and you say things and it can alarm other people, but if they asked you more or let you talk and listen, they would understand that you weren't actually talking about doing something scary. You're just trying to express feelings like defeat, discouragement. I mean, just because somebody says, I'm never going to amount to anything, you know, it, nobody's ever going to love me, I'm going to be alone forever. As long as it's not followed up with that, so why should I live kind of thing, just expressing those emotions are just expressing emotions. But if you start tacking on, so why should I live? Well, then I'm going to start maybe asking more questions and asking if there's, you know, contact, checking in, and if they have a plan, well, then I'm sorry, I'm calling 911. Okay, so I'm bouncing back and forth from me to other people, but anyway, so me myself I like it when people just sit and listen and let me, because I almost always, 95% of the time, I will talk myself out of it. I can start by saying, there's no point to all of this. I'm of no use. Nothing works out. And somehow, and I'll be like sobbing and angry and frustrated. And somehow I managed to get tired. Like, when you express a lot of emotion, it brings you that you like get exhausted. And I start being like, well, it wasn't my fault that this and this happened. It didn't happen to me because of who I am as a person. It was done to me and it wasn't my fault. And I start seeing another side. I wouldn't say the other side, but I kind of talk myself out of it. If I can't do that, if I cannot talk myself out to the other side, then I'm in trouble. Because then it's day after day after day of just negative, and it just gets darker and darker. And I would think that I have had enough suicide. Well, I've only had 2 serious suicide attempts. And one was part of a delusion that I would finally be happy if I just died. And so I felt good. All of my close calls, except for one, I've had 2 delusional close calls. where my brain was telling me bad information. And, but there was one time that I did it because I felt trapped in my life. I felt trapped in a horrible life, and I just had to get out. I wanted out. I didn't want to die. I just wanted out of that. And it was more than I could bear. But the minute I took all the pills, I called my mom and she called 911. And so I can say that if I were talking like I had plans or even the idea of taking my own life, I would want other people to step in, even if I was angry at them, because I know that after the times I had experienced, I did go on later and feel good things. Good things happened later that would not have happened if I had been successful. So, I can say that me personally would be grateful if someone acted on my behalf if I was talking like I had intentions. But they couldn't do it like on the sly. That would be bad. That would be bad. They would have to be upfront with it. Okay, because what I'm hearing and seeing right now, I wouldn't feel comfortable not calling someone. And if I can't call someone to be with you, or I feel like you need doctors to help you, and I'm calling 911. Now, knowing how I would feel about that, if I came upon someone who had depression or bipolar disorder or any kind of other disorder and they were feeling suicidal, and I think I would probably respond the same way, listening carefully and hopefully hear that, because when you're crying and you're upset about stuff, a lot of times your brain's trying to mash through it, and hopefully I will hear some of those words. That sounds like there's some reasoning starting to happen, or if there really was something that occurred to upset them, to be there and listen. As soon as someone is, now this is in real life, this isn't online. Even if it was a stranger and they're like, oh, I can't go on any longer, I can't do this. And if they can't get me information to call someone for them, and there's not going to be someone watching them, then I would call 911 whether they were angry or not, or because I don't know what their future holds for them. It might be that that call I make saves them, and they go on to do something that affects another person in a positive way. I'm a I I don't know if it's Buddhist or not, but I'm a firm believer in um things happen for a reason, and often we don't get to see or witness what our actions have led to, um, so that everything has meaning. And um, I don't know why, and it might not be fair, and this feeling sucks, but I was meant to do this for a reason, and I'll tell you about that a little more in a minute. So I would do the same thing that I would expect someone to do for me. Um, Online, it's different. Online, when someone says in comments or something that they're suicidal or they want to end their life or something, the first thing I say is I am not a mental health professional. I'm somebody that has bipolar disorder and social anxiety. Um, so that's beyond my scope. I encourage you to talk to your doctor as soon as possible. Um, and if it's persistent, I will like block them, because it is not, it takes away from what I'm trying to do for people. Um, and I can't do anything for anyone from where I'm at. Um, I forgot there was something I was going to go back to. But I did want to say that there will come a time, though, that we all die, and that time will be the right time. Oh, okay. How I came to believe everything, even the bad, is for a reason. Well, first of all, I was a nurse on a cancer unit before I managed the animal shelter, and so I did see end of life. I did a lot of end of life care, conversations about, is it right, not right, but we use different words. Um, Fair, is it a good thing? Would he have wanted to go on like this? And conversations like that. Very difficult, um, but I've seen a lot of interesting things regarding death from there. No, this is really weird. Um, so I was a very good student in high school, but my parents didn't have a whole lot of money, and nobody was a whole lot interested in helping me go beyond high school. And I had a summer job as a housekeeper at a hotel, 2 summers. And I had a friend that her mom was a nurse before she had a family. And yeah, this was back when moms still quit their professions to raise their family. And so I I said something. I was at the table, and then everybody was gone. It was just her mom. My friend's mom was with me, and she'd never she'd always been friendly to me, but never intimate. And she said, "You shouldn't worry about cleaning hospitals. You should be a nurse. You get good grades. You're smart. you'd be good at it. That's how I ended up becoming a nurse, and I did the paperwork and stuff myself, got in. And so I did my final big graduating rotation where you're in charge of your own patients, and on a bone marrow transplant floor. And I really enjoyed it. And it was very good training for me to land a job on an oncology floor. And I did a lot of work there. And then I can tell you that nursing is not very conducive to bipolar disorder, especially when you work nights because your sleep is messed up. And so basically, I just got too sick to work. And I was devastated because of the prestige that I had lost. I felt special. People treated me differently. I was looked up to. I was the first one in the family to go beyond high school. And so I was a big deal. And now I was not. So I had really fallen from the pedestal. I was living with my mom, and I had been engaged in that was supposed to end. That was never supposed to happen. See? Now, if I hadn't fallen apart, I would have married that guy, and I would have had a whole life I didn't want, because I was just doing that to please my family, giving them what they wanted, and what they wanted were grandchildren, and you know. So, anyway, so I'm disabled, and I'm so bad off that I'm terrified to go to the store because the cashier might talk to me. I can't order a pizza on the phone. I'm like agoraphobic, social anxiety through the roof, just moods, side effects, ugly. It just gained a lot of weight. I was ugly. And I mean, I was ugly, but the whole situation was ugly. And I took my dog to the vet, and she started talking about this animal shelter they were building, and they'd been working on it to get the money, to raise the money for 10 years, and she was so proud, and she had the plans that was showing me, and she's like, you should volunteer there. And so when they opened in 2010, I volunteered 1 day a week, and soon after, it was 3 days a week, and then it was like you couldn't get me out of the place. And and then I became a paid employee 3 years later, I think, and then manager 2 years after that, or a year after that. Anyway, all those chains of events, all the people, the part I enjoyed the most, well, there were parts in the nursing where I think I really helped people. And I think I was supposed to be there during that time helping those people. But later, for me to get to being the manager of the animal shelter, I had to go through those bad years after the nursing, before, when things were just awful. I had to go through that to get to the animal shelter. And so I think I helped so many people, because I showed them the animals. I approved every adoption. I did so much to help people keep their pets. If they couldn't afford food, and going out where a family member had died and their dogs were still on the property, going out there, and hoarders, and being non-judgmental and kind and patient with people, which was always things I excelled at. um, the that like we had this hard case of hoarding, and I was able to get this woman to let us, get 4 or 5 at a time, and they go on to make those dogs went on to make other people's lives better. And I see the hoarder occasionally in town and say hi to her, and we have a little chit chat, and she's doing much better for just having, she got all of that. And um so I truly think I was meant to follow that path. And another sort of inserted in their path was I was I had a dog, a min pin named Penny, and she was just my life. She helped pull me out of my darkest depression. Um, that's You'll have to go watch those videos because it's a whole big story. Anyway, when I tried to walk her down the street, and I was supposed to get exercise, I was told, but she was so reactive to other dogs, and anything she saw, she would bark like crazy. And I was sitting there watching um, some dog training show. I forget what it was called. It's Me or the Dog. And she showed them what to do for this dog. They had the same problem my dog had. And so I set out with treats and my dog and did the watch me. And next thing you know, my right then sparks when I saw results, my love for training and working with dogs. So going through her in the animal shelter, doing group dog training, one-on-one dog training, behavior modification to shelter dogs that have issues. I come out of all of that, even though now I have the shelter behind me, lost that, and that sucked. And I had to go through crap after that and be depressed. I come out the other end with this skill that, in fact, I prefer working with dogs alone. You can stay home. Just give me your dog. Um, and so I have trained my dog Finnegan to be my service dog, and he's passed, certain tests. And there's one more certification he's not required to have, but I would like him to have. But and so now I have him in my life because of all the string of events. And I take my medication at the same time every day because of him. You know, I have less, my anxiety is a fraction of what it used to be. So um my point is, um if you I'm wondering if other people stopped and looked at those we have awful parts of our lives that are just torture to go through, but somehow they lead somewhere else. And my belief is that we were always meant to be on that path, even though we have had to go through horrible times. And I'm sure I'm going to be going through more. And I don't know what's next, but I can remember that in the past, because in the past, good always follow bad, that when I am depressed and things are not going well, if I persist and have patience, then I'm going to find myself again. It'll be a new self. I'll have added things to me, but I really do believe we are on a path, and when we're done with that path is when we die. But I don't um I don't have time to get in the topic of um people that choose when they die. That's a whole different conversation. Can psychiatric patients choose? I'm having a brain thing. Assisted suicide, like people with physical. That's a different topic. So, um, okay, um, so perhaps if I applied my own logic and my own beliefs to my YouTube, TikTok, where I started at, perhaps even though I may not be one of those people that has thousands and thousands of followers, maybe there's going to be that one person that comes across them and here, but I've already got some validation here, and like get a little humor out of it, so, and get something from it. So I guess I'll do them as long as I have ideas and it's fun. And here, as long as I have what I consider quality things to talk about, I will keep coming back. I don't like to just come and ramble. I like to have a somewhat of a focus, but sometimes it evolves. Anyway, I'm gonna go because it is late and I have to go to bed. So, all right. Well, I'm gonna say good night, and I'm gonna write down. Wait. Lanier. Miller. Okay. Maybe I'll message you sometime. All right. Bye.